It is. And I'd like to welcome you and call this meeting to order. Today is the Tuesday, October 2nd, 2018 meeting of the California State Athletic Commission. Andy, I think our first order of business is to after we call the meeting to order, to establish a quorum, correct? No, we can do the pledge and then we'll do this. We'll establish a quorum. So why don't we do that? Why don't we stand, please, for the pledge? Mr. Perry, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, sir?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We didn't have any of the members kneeling, did we?
That's right.
That's only for the national
I
anthem.
didn't see that, right. Good morning, Councilor Walker. Good morning. Welcome. Good morning, Mr. Foster. Would you please establish a quorum for us?
Chairman Carvelli,
Here.
Vice Chair Lehman,
Here.
Commissioner Frierson,
Here.
Commissioner Senior Quidez,
Here.
Commissioner Souter,
Here.
Commissioner and Dr. Williams,
Here.
and Sir, Commissioner Ayala is unable to attend today.
And we have a quorum.
Yes, sir, we have a quorum. Sir.
Thank you. Welcome to staff. Sophia, Heather, hello, everyone. I have a few items under my remarks. In the order of importance, at least to me, we have lunch reservations at 12:30, right? Yes, okay, we'll talk more about that in a bit.
Everyone's welcome to join us.
A couple of exciting things to talk about, but before that, it's not an agenda item, so I do want to take a minute to announce something that we are very proud of. So much work has been put into this guidance memo. I'm about to read you a couple of paragraphs of explanation. I want to thank Vice Chair Lehman and Spencer and others for all the work you've done on this. And what this is a guidance memo regarding injuries at regulated events. So it's guidance for our folks, our physicians, our judges, our referees, our inspectors, and so on. So let me read this explanation so we know what it is. This guidance memo will be sent out via email by staff this week, Andy, or soon?
Yes, sir, this
Okay.
week.
And then we'll post a note about the availability of the memo on our website so you can see who to call to get this. And we do encourage and recommend strongly that you get a copy of this and keep it and share it. So guidance memo is meant to educate physicians and other officials regarding their roles and responsibilities at regulated events. To summarize the memo, it lists regulations and statutes that apply to physicians and other officials and addresses a fighter's right to refuse medical treatment if injured. It also provides that only the physician in attendance at a regulated event and emergency medical service workers can determine if an injured fighter requires treatment or evaluate whether an injured fighter can refuse treatment. Since this is a guidance memo, the Commission is not required to approve it. And so that is why I'm explaining it to you. I'm telling you about its availability. And once again, we urge you all to please review this and know it. And thanks again, Mary. You've done a lot of work on this.
It was harder than it seemed.
Yeah.
Like most things.
Right. We have two exciting things to talk about, and that is we have, for the first time since 2005, the magnitude of events here in California is the World Heavyweight Championship. December 1st at the Staples Center, Wilder versus Fury. This is congratulations to you, sir, and to us all. That's very, very exciting. So this is big news, and I'm sure seats will be reserve your seats now if you're going to show up, right? That's going to be really exciting. Great.
Thank you, sir.
And we expect to see you there, sir.
I'll be there.
Okay, which is a great segue into our next exciting thing to talk about. Chairman for so long, Commissioner Frierson, has decided to tender his resignation. I think it will be effective in early December, after you come to the fight, please. And so We wanted to take this opportunity today to just take a minute to honor you and your service. Andy, can you take it away?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Frierson called me about 3 months ago and told me that that this would be his last meeting. So I wanted to do a few things for him, and with your permission, sir,
Please.
I went to the legislature, and with Director Garfilo's help, if you can take that to me. The legislature has issued a resolution to Commissioner Frierson, and I'll read it.
Please.
Okay. Whereas John W. Frierson, outgoing commissioner of the California State Athletic Commission, has demonstrated his service to that organization and through his involvement in the local community an outstanding record of personal and civic leadership. And upon the completion of his duties, he is deserving of special honors and the highest commendations. And whereas since 2001, John Frierson has been a member of the California State Athletic Commission, and during his tenure, most of which he served as chair, he has remained steadfast as his commitment to stay true to the Commission's mission to regulate professional and amateur boxing, kickboxing, and mixed martial arts throughout the state by licensing all participants and supervising the events, while also being dedicated to the health, safety, and welfare of the participants in regulated combative sporting events through ethical and professional service, keeping California the premier model of safety and fairness through regulated sporting events. And whereas, as a commissioner, John Frierson has made contributions of noteworthy importance to combative sports in California and has been instrumental in ensuring diversity in the sport and maintaining focus on the health and safety of the athletes. In addition, his commitment, vision, and leadership have helped to lead to larger events, safeguarding economic vitality in the Golden State. And whereas, prior to his membership on the commission, John Frierson patriotically served in the United States Navy and is a dedicated supervising traffic officer for the West Los Angeles Police Division of the Los Angeles Police Department, while also sharing his time and talent over the years as vice president of the Oscar Joel Bryan Association and is a member of both the Los Angeles Urban League and the Los Angeles NAACP, among other important organizations. And whereas as a leader in every sense of the word, a forward thinker, and an advocate for better understanding among people, John Frierson has won praise and admiration of countless individuals across the nation and has been named Golden Glove Featherweight Champion for the state of New York and Member of the Year for the Oscar Joel Bryan Association, in addition to receiving multiple community service awards for members of the California State Legislature. And whereas the contributions that John Frierson has made to the people of California have been invaluable, he has made a lasting impression on those individuals with whom he is associated. Now, therefore, be it resolved by Senator Ben Allen and Assemblymember Autumn Burke that John W. Frierson be extended deep appreciation for his dedication and contributions to the people of the state of California and conveyed best wishes for all the richness and rewards of an active and productive retirement.
Come back here. You guys want to try to squeeze in? Sophia, would you make sure, Heather, that gets posted up on our Instagram, where we have over 100 followers now. Before I ask Commissioner Frierson to say anything he'd like to say, would anyone here, Commissioner Souter, any of the commissioners would like to add anything And if anyone here would like to step up and say anything about John Frierson, here's an opportunity to do that. Lou, come on up. Commissioners, do you have anything you want to add? Other than your
Well,
congratulations?
I will.
Yes, sir.
I am deeply disappointed, John, that you have left me the oldest man on the commission in this room and no doubt in this hotel. But in all those years that you have spent in a commitment to this organization and all it represents, you have been an incredibly positive contributor to the class and the quality of this commission and its services. And your personal friendship has always been a source of joy. And all I can say is not seeing you here at these meetings will diminish the pleasure I have here. And Godspeed to you in your next endeavors, as I'm sure you'll have them.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I would like to echo exactly what Commissioner Souter said. He said it better than I think I could, but I will offer my own personal words and congratulate you on the retirement. And also tell you how much that we'll all miss you at these meetings. And also just express my gratitude to you for what you've done in the short time that I've been part of the commission in terms of leadership and direction and friendship as well, because you've also helped me through some difficult times, and I sincerely appreciate that, as does my family. So congratulations, and we'll absolutely miss you.
Thank you.
So I have the privilege of serving in this role, sir. And one of the things that I often ask myself is not just what would John Frierson do, but will he be proud of me in some of the things that I've been doing? And that's, I don't know what other compliment I could pay to you, but I want your approval. And I appreciate your mentorship. You're a distinguished gentleman and cannot be replaced.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I'd just like to say, from my very first day here, you've always been, very welcoming and kind and, very dapper with your ties and matching handkerchiefs, and I will miss that for sure. You got to step up here, Van. But as a member of the commission, I very much appreciated your perspective and wisdom, and that's something that we need to hold on to. And as our current chair, John, said, he always wants to, hear your voice of approval. Well, I want to hear your voice in the back of my head. It's like, what perspective, what policy and big picture and historic, value would, and I always want to say, Chairman Frierson, and that's just, you will always be that to me, with all apologies to you, John Carvelli, but
They still announce his name at the fights, too.
yeah, so that's, you are that, and you really are this commission to me, and you will always be here in my mind, and I hope every once in a while you can just pop in, and when we, even when we have the public comments, we'll bring the mic to you. No restrictions.
John, through all our challenges and all of our work together, I feel like we're losing an institution in the commission. And I'm sure whatever it is you're going to be doing next will also be challenging and fun and an adventure for you. So we wish you the best, and I'm sure we'll be seeing you at the fights.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Dr. Moret.
Lou Moret, California referee. As the resolution attests, he's been a trailblazer all his life. He has done so many wonderful things, not only for this commission and for the people of California, but for his community. But his work as a boxing commissioner, he has always made sure, as a former boxer himself, that the health and safety and the welfare of the fighters was uppermost in his mind, and that will never be forgotten. As a personal note, we know each other in other capacities. We have been delegates to the Democratic Convention a few times, and he has been very active politically on the quiet side in his community. So on behalf of all officials, thank you for your service. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for encouraging us. And thank you for attending a lot of the fights and then giving us your input. Congratulations, John.
Thank you, Don.
Louis Perry, Inspector for the State of California Athletic Commission. I first met John about 20 years ago. We were working security at a venue in Burbank, and I never knew who he was. And he said, "Young man, who are you?" And I said my name, and he was very generous, very nice, and shared with me, "I'm the commission." I didn't know what that meant, so I asked somebody what the commission meant for him to be the head guy of the commission, and they said, "Well, that's the big cheese." And I was very impressed that he, reached out to me, just a guy there walking around with a security team in Burbank about 20 years ago. I've gotten to know John over the years from when I became an inspector about 5 years ago under the great leadership of Andy, John, and the rest of the team. It's a tremendous organization to be a part of. Like most people here, I don't do it for the money. I do it for the enjoyment of the sport. John Frierson is a guy that no matter where you walk, I've had lunch with dignitaries, and I say, "Well, I'm the inspector," and I'm thinking that, "Oh, wow, this guy's going to think I'm the inspector." And the first thing he says was, "I know your boss." And I say, "Wait a minute, again, I got to go back to this?" Every person I met in any capacity, from the state controller, whoever it was I'd be having lunch with, I would mention I'm one of the inspectors, and they would always say the same thing: "I know your boss." And as soon as they say that, I said, this guy really has worked his way to gain the respect of so many people in all different departments of the government. And I'm proud to say that you're a friend of mine. I'm proud to be associated with you and for your legacy, which is a very positive legacy, because being a leader is not a person that has to throw their power around, but a person that can basically just be a normal person and get everything done. And that's what I see in the new chairman, John.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Mr. Perry.
Thank you.
Don't kiss here.
I'll try to do this without laughing now, and I'll keep it brief. Chris Castrillo with the Department of Consumer Affairs. Just like to associate my comments with those of your fellow commissioners, and really just want to extend our gratitude on behalf of the department, the director, the Business Consumer Services and Housing Agency, and the governor's office for your service. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you.
JT Steele with Camo. I knew something was amiss today. I didn't know what it was. This might be the first time in 15 years that Commissioner Frierson and I do not have a matching tie on. And I just want to thank him for the element of class that he always has brought to the commission. I've been coming to these meetings for about 15 years now, and that is a face that I've seen every time for so many years. And when amateur mixed martial arts was just an idea, Commissioner Frierson was an advocate, and he was a believer of that. So part of that legacy lives on through amateur mixed martial arts, was really brought to the forefront here in the state of California under your leadership, and for that we'll be forever grateful to you and very appreciative of your service. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Commissioner. Mark Relier, State Athletic Commission. I came on board in 2006, and I think I can speak for practically all of the inspectors. We appreciated your leadership so much. I personally enjoyed your company sitting next to me, watching the fights for all these years, and I want to say that you'll be greatly missed. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Sir?
Okay. Pardon me if I don't stand up. When you're 90 years old, you have to really be careful of even standing. thank you everyone for speaking. I'm really surprised that my daughter, who is here, would you please stand up, my daughter? Jocelyn. I'm surprised she didn't have something to say. But it's all right. One of the things I have to say even before I start is that my daughter always gets on my case because I don't hear. In fact, I used to tell Andy, I said, have the people speak up. He says, they are speaking up, it's you. She went through all this trouble of giving me hearing aids, and I don't wear them. You know, so I want to tell all of you young people, when your young family tells you to do those things, you better do them. Because I heard a lot of people speaking. I heard some of it, but I didn't hear all of it.
It was all good.
It was all good.
Real good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But I just want to say thank you, everyone, for this. One of the things is a poem, just the last part of it, is around the corner, I have a friend. And the last part of it is around the corner, a vanished friend. And I say that because a close friend of ours, of mine, passed just the other day. And I think you did recognize him at your bouts,
Yes,
give him a 10 count. But he was a great person. We're both the same age in the whole bit. And his wife passed away, and he's married, like I was married 47 years. I think he was married 50-some years. And she passed before him, and I know what it takes, what it's about. But I just want to say, cherish your friends. Cherish your friendship. You can get mad at them. You can do all those different things. But, you know, you cherish each other. And this board, I hope this board continues to be number one, because we are number one in the nation. And Andy, you brought us a long way. And I'm so glad and so happy that I was one of the people that helped appoint you, because you are really a good person. And your chair and all the rest of these commissions are very good people. You guys didn't know, but Mr. Souter, he was my chair when I first got on. And here he is back again. He's a great person. So I just want to thank everyone. Thank everyone for your words. And just keep together, please. Thank you.
Okay, we have business to do. We are on agenda item number 3. This will be approval of the July 24, 2018 Commission meeting minutes. Mr. Foster.
Mr. Chairman, as you know, I sent these out to you and Vice Chair Lehman in advance, as well as the full commission. We took the edits that anybody had, and this is the final copy in your packet. So as far as I know, these are a good set of clean minutes.
Okay, so I need a motion to approve these minutes, please. Motion, Commissioner Shannon-Akita, second. Second, Commissioner, was that Dr. Williams or Commissioner Souter? Okay, any comments, commissioners? Any other members of the public have a chance to comment on these minutes? Seeing none, we call the roll for the vote, please.
Vice Chair Lehman.
Approved, yes.
Commissioner Frierson.
Yes.
Commissioner Senior-Quidez. Commissioner Souter.
Yes.
Commissioner and Dr. Williams.
Yes.
Chairman Carvelli.
Yes. Thank you.
6-0.
So approved. Agenda item number 4, review and possible action of petition to change the decision for Rommel Caballero versus Eric Rodriguez bout on April 12, 2018 in Indio. Mr. Foster.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Caballero's promoter, Golden Boy, is and the promoter of this fight is here, present. But in brevity, this situation comes down and it's a rather simple situation. The situation comes down to who stopped the fight first. Okay, because if the corner stops the fight, there was an accidental head clash, and we have video for the commissioners to watch in just a moment. If there's an accidental head clash, nobody's disputing that fact. Okay. They walk back to the corner. There's blood from the cut. The doctor comes and checks it. The doctor says he's good to go. He can continue. These are not disputed facts. These are facts. Where the dispute comes, or whether the issue appears, is who stopped the fight first. The corner stopped the fight first by our regulations. It's a TKO. Okay, or it's a knockout. Yeah, TKO. If the referee stopped the fight first, due to it's a technical draw. Okay, and we have various people for you to help make your decision here. Mark Rellier, the lead inspector at the event, is here.
Can we have the folks that are involved in this item come up to the front table, please? Come on up. Go ahead, Andy.
And we also have, I believe, the inspector. Is Mr. Chapa here? Mr. Chapa is here. The inspector who worked the corner, Mr. Chapa, who is fluent in Spanish, is here. And we have several looks for you. We have the English broadcast as well as the Spanish broadcast. And really it comes down to who stopped the fight first.
Okay, how do you wish to proceed for us to, Gary, you want us to watch the video, or do you want us to hear from the?
I think watching the video would be the best look.
Okay.
And then I suppose, sir, hearing from Mr. Robert Diaz, the promoter or the matchmaker of the fight, and then from Mark Rellier, then the inspector would help you make your decision.
Okay, before we watch the video, commissioners, do you have any comments or questions? Or should we get to the tape? Ready? Okay. Heather.
118 pounds, actually. They believe this young man is the best of the bunch. They've learned from the mistakes made on the road towards the first three brothers.
And they have the fighting blood in their DNA. I mean, they have it in their DNA. I mean, I won't be surprised if their mother know how to throw a jab. Because when you grow up in the box,
That was the headbutt, right?
Yep.
You can narrate if you like. Is that it? Okay.
Eric Rodriguez.
and it's in a bad spot too, Bernardo, because it's right there where it can drip down as the rounds go. As you see, that he's wiping away right now because it's distracting, and it could be a factor.
All right, Eric Rodriguez still game as the first round nears a close.
It's a bad cut.
It is a bad cut. We'll see how they work it in between rounds, but I want to invite you to see great fights because
come up is his hashtag Joseph Diaz Jr. Gary Russell. Should be a good one, Bernie.
It will be a good one. And what happened here, the cut that was suffered by Eric Rodriguez at the end of the first round, the corner of Eric Rodriguez no longer wanted the fight to continue. So Jesse Ochoa and Ruben Diaz make the decision. And now we have to see if the doctor was allowing the fight to continue, but the corner didn't want to continue because...
Sí, creo que eso va a influir demasiado. La esquina es presentada por Hennessy. Never stop, never settle.
Se está escuchando la esquina como está diciendo el referee, no pare la pelea.
Sí, pero ve el sangrado exactamente en una posición muy incómoda, porque está exactamente en el párpado y donde el sangrado le va a impedir la visibilidad, y parece que no. Parece que ya ahí está pidiendo que vaya nuestro
Notice
tercer
Mr. Chopper
hombre,
called
Wayne
the referee over.
Hedgepeth, y se acabó. Se acabó esto.
Robert, hang on 1 second, please. Come on up. Please come on up. Do you want to add anything?
No, sir. The video speaks for itself. You saw Mr. Chopper call the referee over.
Okay.
Okay.
Would you introduce yourself?
Good morning, Robert Diaz, Golden Boy Promotions matchmaker.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. I wish you all the very best.
Thank you.
You will be missed, and I thank you for all the years of service. As you can see in the video, it was an accidental headbutt. Nobody disputes that. The doctor went in, saw the cut. It looked bloody during the round, but when they cleaned it, even the coroner states it's not much, it's nothing, it's very little. The doctor allowed the fight to continue, but the fighter said, I can't see. The coroner even said, it's nothing, let us work on it. That's why what I brought up, we always respect the final decision, but in this particular case, the doctor was going to allow it, the referee, I believe, was going to allow it. It was the fighter who, to me, abandoned the fight. Thus, for should be a TKO. Thank you.
Yeah, let's have some more information, please. as you
Mark
go on.
Relier is the lead inspector. He was there for the night.
Mark Relier, California State Athletic Commission, the lead inspector on this evening. Mr. Diaz gave you a good analogy of what happened. I'm going to add a little bit of information as far as the conversations. Referee Hedgepeth couldn't make it today. I would love to have had him up here and testify his thought process. But he came over to me directly after this, and he told me that the fight was being stopped, that the corner said that his fighter couldn't go on, that basically he couldn't see out of his eye. And with that statement, it's incongruent. He told me we had to go to the cards. At that time, I needed to clarify. I said, now, who stopped this fight? And he says, well, the fighter can't see. When I asked him that question, he walked away for a minute. He went and he spoke to the doctor again, and he had a conversation with the inspector who's present today. And then he came back and he made his ruling. He is the sole arbiter of the fight. He looked at me. He says, I'm stopping the fight. The fighter got a lot of blood in his eye. The headbutt was hard. He says he can't see out of his eye. With that, I went ahead and recorded the decision, which is actually makes it a technical draw. In a minute, you know what, I'm going to do it right now. I want to just speak to one issue. I believe we're here today because of California's rule and the language they use when a fight is cut by an accidental headbutt before the beginning of the fourth round. What a lot of people will declare a no decision, which is clear on a fighter's report, California chooses to use the term technical draw. Technical draw is misleading. It tells everybody that picks up the fight facts and looks at the results of this fight that this fighter was involved in a fight that was even, or that he didn't do well, or that he didn't have a good showing. It's going to cause people consternation. I haven't met a lot of people in the state that are boxing people that believe that language really serves us justice, particularly not the matchmakers. No contest lets us know something happened. There are no significant events to report, and it's not, held against either fighter. A technical draw, a draw on a record, many people believe that it pretty much wrecks the record. And I believe that's why we're here today. The facts of what happened is not in dispute. It's just a question of how this fight ended, who stopped it. The sole arbiter, referee Hedgepeth, made the decision that he stopped the fight and that he was instructing me to go to the cards, which made it a technical draw. Thank you.
Hold on, Mark.
Yes.
Hang on. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Mark?
So
Here.
we're applying the California rules.
Yes.
So first of all, I think the referee was a little confused in his letter because he starts talking about the unified rules of boxing, which is wrong. Then he actually applies the California rules, which would be correct. So he's got both, but so we're applying the California rules. But under the California rules, it says if the referee and or the ringside physician. So in terms of how this went about, I would have liked to have seen a little bit better mechanics. If this was an unintentional foul and the fighter couldn't continue because of an unintentional foul, because it isn't just blood in the eye, right? Sometimes, I mean, we've all had headbutts and it's like getting hit with a hammer sometimes. Maybe you can't see because you just got hit in the head with a hammer. So perhaps it would have been better to maybe call the doctor back up and had him re-examined and the referee and or the physician make the decision, or maybe give the guy an extra minute or two to recover and see if he can continue rather than just, so what makes it difficult to me isn't just the technical drug, because we're not here to determine whether the language in this rule is right or wrong. What we're here to determine is how this came about and how and whether this was declared properly. So it was not a referee and or a ringside physician declaring this a stoppage. This because, I'm sorry, but a fighter, hold on a sec, 1 second.
Are you making your final statements, or are you asking
No,
Mark?
I'm
or
asking
should we
Mark
have a
because
motion?
doesn't a fighter get the benefit of the doubt because we're erring on the side of safety?
I think I can answer those questions. There are three of them. First of all, what you're saying was good, is that we're talking about a cut, but there's a significant headbutt. Nobody disputes that. And the cut may not have been the only damage. And that's a point well taken. Again, the referee is the sole arbiter. Your concerns and his investigation as far as how he ended the fight and his determination, what he shared with me was, again, I've testified to it. I know that the doctor did look at the fighter. That fact is not in dispute. I know that the doctor did not see a reason to stop the fight based on his observation. Afterwards, I conducted an investigation myself because I had some of the similar questions. When I asked the inspector if the doctor asked him questions about being able to see, the inspector told me no, he didn't ask those questions. He just looked at the injury to answer your question. And the third thing is the rule clearly states that the referee is entitled to end the fight with or without the doctor's concurrence. If the ringside physician looks at the fighter, the rule states that regardless of that, the referee is allowed to use his discretion and end the fight. In the second conversation I had with referee Hedgepath, when he walked up to me and spoke to me, he made it clear that he was satisfying the rule as far as, one, he is the referee sole arbiter. Number two, he's saying that he stopped the fight. Number three, he's saying he stopped the fight based on a complaint from the fighter that he couldn't see.
Okay.
Got your questions answered?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Ilya?
Sure.
Who was the physician?
It was Dr. Guerrero. He's newer to the commission, but he seems to do an outstanding job.
He's new.
Andre Guerrero.
Yeah, and I
Dr.
believe
Andre
is
Guerrero is a new physician.
a newer physician. He appears to be a very good physician, and probably this is a learning opportunity.
Any other questions for?
I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah, this kind of, if you can help me, it's my understanding of the rules. As I understand that the other side's arguing for a TKO for a refusal to continue the fight. my review of the rules is that the refusal to continue a fight resulting in TKO only happens in two instances. Once if someone refuses to answer the bell, and the second is if the corner literally throws in the towel.
Exactly, abandoning the fight, absolutely.
But
Which
the
is a
one is-
contention of Mr. Diaz is what happened.
Right, but
That
there
the
was
fighter
no
refused to
towel,
answer.
and the bell had not rung yet.
The towel is figurative. Actually, we don't throw a towel in California. We just tell the inspector that the fighter can't go on, and that was satisfied.
So that's what you're saying. It was.
That was done as well as, but the question was it the corner that stopped the fight? Because if the corner did stop the fight, then that would have made it a TKO. If they said this fighter can't go on after the referee and the doctor said he was good to fight, then it would go down in the records as a TKO. Referee Hedgepath said he stopped the fight in his report to me based on the fighter's complaint that he couldn't see.
So just to clarify, you're saying that in California, the practice is that we don't require the little throwing in of the towel?
No, as a matter of fact, we restrict that. We don't allow it. And it's really a sound decision. When a towel comes in, nobody knows who throws it. The rule is that the chief, primarily, the chief second is the only person that can stop a fight on the fighter's behalf. And the practice is he reports it to the inspector or the referee that he wants the fight stopped. Usually the inspector will stand up and enter the ring and let him know.
Okay, well, I could see why having a rule such as a towel isn't for situations exactly like this. Is it clear that the corner's stopping the fight, or is it clear that the referee, when there's a towel flying in the ring, obviously that's clear, and I think this is a consequence. And our rule literally does say towel. So if we want to change the rule to be more specific, maybe that's something that needs to be done, and there's a precise way. If it's the way that you described, that's in actuality, we want to make that a rule, because I see that as a problem.
Would this be the towel regulation matter?
Yeah.
Chris Castillo, mark that down, the towel regulation matter. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Commissioner Frierson, don't go away.
No, I just wanted to mention that about 6 years ago, maybe 7 years ago, that towel thing was eliminated. It used to be the towel and all the movies and everything, you just throw in the towel. They don't do that.
It's been a bad. So it would have served us in this case, but in other cases it tends to be a bad practice. New York obviously had a fiasco where somebody from the crowd threw a towel in, and there's reasons why we'd replace it with a best practice. There are a lot of little rules that as we live and learn, we move on. We don't have time to amend the writing every day, but we develop best practices that tend to serve us a little better, and that's been one of them.
Thank you, Sarah.
Sure.
Mr. Chapa, would you like to provide some information? Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Good morning. My name is Rogelio Chapa. I'm one of the inspectors for the state under Mr. Aurelia.
I almost had a slight panic attack when I saw immigration attorney go, what does this have to do with immigration?
Oh, no, it's just my letterhead. Thank you, sir. Oh, okay. Well, just basically that night, I do recall being a lot of blood around the eye. My first inclination is to check on the depth of the cut so I can inform the referee, because as he's getting the cards, they usually come in and ask real quickly. So my focus is on the sole fighter. And as they were applying the pressure and all, he communicated in Spanish to his corner that no puedo ver, I can't see. I informed the ref, and as the ref turned away to walk over to Mr. Aurelia to give him, I believe, what would be the cards, he said it again. And it was at this point that the corner said, okay, we're going to stop it. And I confirmed with the fighter. I'm like, are you sure you want to stop it? He said yes. And it was at this point that I went and got the referee to inform him that they wanted to stop the fight. But he did communicate clearly in Spanish that he could not see.
Questions for Mr. Chapa? And I have one, Commissioners, if you don't mind. We're just getting more more facts as we move along here. So, but I'm of the impression, as I sit here right now, that there was a breakdown somewhere between the fighter saying I'm done, that which translated over to the referee having to make the decision. Is that right? Like a chain of events occurred that it didn't happen whereby the corner had made their decision with the fighter, but yet that decision wasn't relayed correctly. It got to the ref and he made the decision. Is that?
Yes, I mean, I just informed the ref, is like, he cannot see, and then the second time when he recommunicated after the doctor and the ref walked away is when I confirmed, like, you want to stop this.
Well, hang on. So you asked the referee, do you want to stop?
I didn't ask the ref.
Okay.
That's none of my
That's
prerogative.
okay. We're just trying to get clarity.
Yeah.
on this.
No, I just I communicate if there are like injuries.
Did
And
you tell the referee that they want to stop the fight?
yes, they
The
wanted
corner
to stop
wants
it.
to stop the fight. The fighter wants to stop
After I confirmed it with the fighter. I didn't take the corner's word for it. I took the
the
fighter's
corner
word.
fighter. That team said they want to stop the fight.
Yes.
Okay. And then the referee relayed that decision, or the referee.
Then
your
that
opinion-
referee walked away and walked over to the table, and that's when they stopped the fight.
And he came over to Mark.
Yes, that's when he walked over. And at that point, the corner was really just concerned on if it was going to be a TKO or no
Yeah, I
contest.
can guess that. Mark, did you get the impression from Wayne that he was stopping the fight?
Again, his first utterance was incongruent. He says, we're going to go to the cards. The fighter's corner says the fighter can't see, we're stopping the fight. And I said, well, is the corner, remember as I testified, is the corner stopping the fight, which makes it a TKO, or is the fight being stopped because of the injury by the doctor or you? And he walked away. He didn't give me an answer. He talked to the doctor, and he went back and visited with Inspector Chapa, and he visited the corner, and then he came back and he gave me his ruling. And I've
Okay.
gone over his ruling a couple
Question
of
for
times.
both of you. Why do you think that he was not clear when he had instructions from you that the corner stopped the fight? Why was he hesitating or not clear? We don't know.
Again, it would have been very useful to have him here today to represent what he did.
I know, I've talked about this a million
I had a
times.
discussion with him and
yeah.
told him the importance of it, but he had some other pressing matter and he just couldn't make it.
Okay, more questions?
I have a question. Would it make a difference to either of you if, when he said he couldn't, the fighter said he couldn't see, that was followed up with another question or examination to clarify this issue? Because I agree with Martha that it may not have had anything to do with blood. I mean, you can have a concussive injury and have loss of vision or visual loss, field loss, and you can't see, for that reason. So would it make a difference if he said, no, it's not blood, I just can't see? Because it seems like part of it is kind of hung up on, well, the cut wasn't that bad.
Mark Relier, State Athletic Commission. It's very important to know that these decisions, the doctor is there. We rely very heavily on the doctor and the referee to utilize that doctor when he's needed. And it certainly was something that should have been looked at. And that was my first question for Inspector Regilio when I got in the back was, what happened? Did the doctor ask the fighter if he could see? And again, I'm across the ring, so I'm not privy to the conversation at the time. And his answer at that time was that the doctor did not ask him. So referee Hedgepath made his decision based on his conversation with the corner and the fighter, knowing that the doctor had looked at the cut and said that it was okay to continue.
Rogelio again. I guess when I tell the fighters that my role is more of an observation in the back, I'm not there to ask questions. I'm there more to relay the information about the condition of the fighter as well as the safety, and that's what I did in this instance. I informed the referee of the facts of what's transpiring because, of course, he's not there long enough as opposed to where I'm there at the full minute with my full concentration on the fighter's safety. So and that was the role that I took that day, is just to ensure and to communicate the facts as cleanly as I could to the appropriate person to make the. No. Just to make. I mean that's what I'm trying to convey is to get the facts to the appropriate person to make the decision.
Right. So, more questions from? So here, if you look at referee Hedgepeth's letter at the bottom of the first page, Martha, I think you were touching on this. Subsequently, I asked Boxer Rodriguez if he was able to continue boxing. He replied no. At that point, I made the decision. So is that where we are? Okay, so I think we need some guidance on what our options are, Andy. I mean,
Well, I mean, your options, you could uphold the technical draw. You could change the decision
Andy,
based.
excuse me, could you reframe exactly what the issues are that we're judging here?
Absolutely, sir. An accidental headbutt caused a cut in the fight, not disputed. The doctor allowed the fight. The doctor said the fighter can continue into the second round. That's not disputed. What's in dispute is whether the corner stopped the fight first. This is during the rest period, is what I'm talking about. Okay, so I appreciate the towel and all that, but I'm talking about during the rest period. Did the corner stop the fight?
In what way do we believe the corners would have stopped the fight?
If the fighter had looked up at his corner, say I'm sitting in a stool, he looks up and says, I can't see. And the corner says to the inspector who's right here, says, look, my guy can't see. We're calling this fight. We're stopping this fight.
Ed, are you confirming then at that point, Wayne is confirming that in his letter? Is he admitting it? It says it, right? At the bottom of the paragraph. Last two lines. They told him he was done.
That's correct, sir. And at that point, what the commissioners have to decide is who stopped the fight first, and was the referee, the sole arbiter of the contest, going to stop the fight anyway, even against the doctor's advice. Like the doctor says the fight can continue. Maybe the referee saw something. Maybe the referee was. I don't want to speculate.
You're speculating, but please forgive me. Maybe you want to appear somebody. You see that line where he said he was unable to continue? He said no. So the decision was made by the corner. Hedgepeth is saying that in this letter, unless I'm misreading this. So anybody can correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay, well, I have an observation.
Yes, please.
Okay, so, being an attorney here, I'm, looking at all the rules and stuff, and I think it's not so much which happened first. It's the interplay of the rules. The Rule 339, which gives the referee the power to stop a fight for essentially any reason, if it's the damage is caused by an unintentional foul, which is undisputed, it happened here. And then that's deemed a technical draw. Okay, and then you have a more general rule that if you quote unquote throw in the towel, it's a TKO. Well, the rules of law is that the specific governs the general. And so you have this general rule that if the other side's corner throws in the towel, then it's a TKO. But then we have this specific where if it's an unintentional foul that makes the fighter unable to go forward, then it's the draw. And so I would say because this is specific to something that's caused by an unintentional foul, it's not really relevant which happened first, as long as the referee determined that the fighter cannot go on because of caused by this unintentional foul, which to me is clearly the case. And I would sum up by saying that this is consistent with protecting the fighter. I want the fighters in the corner to say if there's any problems, vision, that there should be not this huge penalty of quitting the fight when there's damage caused by an unintentional foul. So that's my legal summation.
Robert, yes, come on up.
I'll make this short. Andy knows me. We work many fights together, and I am very pro safety for the fighter, and most importantly, the safety of the fighter. In this case, if the referee would have, or the doctor would have stopped the fight from the beginning, there would be no dispute that that was for safety of the fighter. Now, a fighter at any time could say they're injured and not want to continue and not show any major injury. So to answer the question, if it would have been an unintentional headbutt, which it was, and there's a major cut caused by it, and the referee or the doctor, regardless of the corner wanting to continue or not, stop the fight because of this major cut, that would not be in dispute today. The doctor allowed it. I believe the referee was going to allow it, but the corner, and you hear it in the video saying, it's not a bad cut, we can take care of it, but the fighter decides there, I can't see, that's throwing in the towel. That's abandoning the fight, which should result in the TKO. Now again, he could have been blinded not from the blood, but from the blow of the headbutt. For a few seconds, he cannot see. There's a safety issue there. But if they would have given the doctor or maybe the corner time to clean it, to wipe it, to see that minute break, if the vision comes back, and then he still can't see, or if it cleared up and he sees, he could have continued. Now, if the referee doesn't stop it, the fight continues. If the fighter doesn't, throw in the towel, in this case.
Thank you.
I think Commissioner Mary and Andy are really saying the same thing. It really is a question of semantics. It's not so much really what came first, or really even the specific versus the general. It really is, I think, comes down to because the referee has to wave it off anyways, whoever made the decision. So it really comes down to, what did he base his decision on? Why did he wave it off at the end? I mean, every fight that gets waved off, it's the referee who waves it off. So the bottom line is, why did he wave it off? Did he wave it off because it was the corner, or did he wave it off because he made the decision that there was an injury which was caused by an unintentional foul, and therefore the fighter couldn't continue? So the question is, did the referee actually go over, examine, whether it was by himself individually, or with the help of a physician, or with the help of whatever, and actually make that determination that this fighter couldn't continue, and therefore, but it has to be something that he decided, as opposed to based on the corner or the fighter or what. But so did he make that determination by himself based on whatever facts? And so that, and it's a matter of, how fast he made that decision, whether it was based on facts, whether it was based on only the conversation that he heard from the corner. I think those are the things that we have to consider. An unintentional foul such as this, like a headbutt, is really like a low blow. And, I suppose he could have given him up to 5 minutes to see if he could recover. We kind of hope those, but anyways, so those are kind of factors that maybe we need to consider to see whether it was based on the corner's, conversation, the fighter's or whether he actually looked at him, whether he actually, that stuff.
Mr. Chapa, come back up.
Yes, Chairman.
Do you have any sense of if the fighter was... Let me play back what I think I heard you say. Fighter told his folks that he couldn't see. Did you ever hear him say, I can't go back out?
No, he did not say that. From what he said, the second time around, when he said it the second time, after the referee had walked away, is when I asked. And he said, I can't see. And the corner said, we're not gonna go. I asked the fighter, do you want to stop it? He said, yes, I agree with him.
Right, you already said that. So you're saying it again. The fighter agreed to stop the fight.
I confirmed it with the fighter to make sure.
Twice.
Yes, because at that point it was just to make sure, double check, because he was, his faculties were there.
Were you the first official who heard the fighter say, "I can't see"?
At that point, the Dr. Guerrero was there and the referee was there. I don't know Dr. Guerrero's, I'm assuming he knows Spanish, but I would assume also that.
We can't assume that stuff. Do we know if Dr. Guerrero knows Spanish?
He does know Spanish.
He does.
Yes.
But it seems to me, as a total layman and not a lawyer, an expert on how many angels can dance on the head of a pin, but not a lawyer, it seems to me that the fight ended when the fighter said to an official of the state of California, "I can't see." At that point, the fight had to stop. And it may have taken time for this message to move through officialdom, but I would say at that point the fight was over. Now, I don't know if that plays into the process.
Why are you shaking your head?
Because I know that the corner man heard his fighter say, "I cannot see," and this is when he repeats in English because he speaks both. Well, to me it seems like he's the corner man, the corner man, the cut man, whichever.
Who was the first California person who heard the fighter say, "I can't see, I don't want to go on," conveyed the message to our officials that he was through?
The three of us were in the corner at that point.
Well, then I would say at that point the fight was over.
And I told Wayne, he's saying he can't see because it was said in Spanish, and his cornerman said, "Give me time. It's a small cut. I can make it stop." And that's when they walked away and hit the fighter again.
Stop going back.
Okay.
We keep confusing and convoluting this. There's a couple of key statements here, and we keep moving away from them. I don't know why.
Okay.
The fighter said to you, after you asked him when he said he couldn't see, yes or no, it's not a statement, it's a question, "I'm done, I can't go back out."
The second time.
He said it to you.
The first time.
I don't, just say it's a yes or no.
Yes, sir.
Why are we having a hard time confirming that?
Okay, yes,
He said, yes, I cannot go back out. Yes?
yes.
Okay. I didn't mean to put words in your mouth, but I keep hearing that, so, okay, yes. And then, as Van Souter's putting it, it worked its way through, but at that point in time, I agree with Commissioner Souter, he said it best. He stopped the fight. He just did. I don't think anything else matters.
Okay.
He stopped the fight. Okay, so I don't see anybody disputing that. And Wayne Hedgepath is admitting it in his letter, so therefore confirming it. Folks.
Right.
Okay, so if we have more questions, great. I need a motion, but I need you guys to frame what's being asked of us, please.
Let me go back to I want to see exactly.
It's going to have to be that.
I'm waiting for.
The request on the change of decision forms is Mr. Caballero is submitting that the bout be changed. I mean, respectfully request that the commission a change of decision and it be overturned from a technical draw to a TKO in favor of Rommel Caballero. That's what the ask is.
Okay, so there is an ask, and so I will first ask the commission if there is a motion on that ask.
I move to deny the petition and to continue the ruling as the technical draw.
So we have a different motion other than that request. We have a motion to deny the request. Do we have a second for that motion? No second. That motion fails. So do I have a motion on the request from another commission or a different motion? No motion whatsoever?
I move to.
Got me confused, yeah.
Would you like to make a motion to have a vote on what the fighter is requesting for a TKO?
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Frierson will make the motion based on the request that the decision be changed from a technical draw to a TKO.
I second.
We have a second on that motion. Any more discussion about this motion now from the public or from the commissioners? before we vote? Mr. Foster, call the roll and frame it so it's a yes or no to change the decision. Yes?
Okay.
Okay.
This is an affirmative would be to change the decision from a technical draw to a TKO.
Okay.
Okay.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner and Dr. Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Souter.
Aye.
Commissioner Senior Quidez.
Aye.
Commissioner Frierson. Vice Chair Lehman.
No.
Chairman Carvelli.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-1, sir,
Motion passes. Okay.
to change the decision.
We change the decision to a technical knockout. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we are on to agenda item number 5. Okay. Review and approval of all event officials pay scale. Mr. Foster. Item number 5.
Mr. Chairman, just a little background on this particular topic. I have reason to believe that this commission has already acted on this in the past. I believe I already possess this authority. We have scoured the minutes. I'm fairly certain this commission's, not this commission, but a prior commission has already acted on this. But for the sake of being correct, I'm asking for this authority. I need the authority. I'm asking for the commissioners to grant the executive officer of this commission the authority to use my good judgment and not have to have our title fight officials only work the world title fights. A lot of reasons for that. And for one thing, all world title fights are not created equally. Okay. Another thing is typically and often our best officials in California are often the ones that I assign to the world title fights. Okay, that's a fair statement. Okay, I would not be doing my job if I did not do that. Okay, situation happened the other day where we had a situation like at Tom Loeffler's event over at 360 where we have 5 world title fights on one fight card and then a bunch of undercards. Commissioners, the officials pay scale, and I'm not so worried about the pay, but it was so excessive on that particular fight because I assigned so many people. And by the way, I still kind of violated the policy a bit. I had to move people around as best I could. $28,000 in officials fees. Yeah, $28,600 in officials fees. I'm not sure that's the best course of action for California boxing when we have a fight. Now, if it's a Deontay Wilder or if it's a big fight at the Staples Center, yes, I'm going to use my good judgment. I need some flexibility. And another point is our undercard officials deserves the best officials that we can put out. And not that we don't have great officials, but they deserve the best we can give them often. And if I've tied up the best officials on one fight, I'm a bit handicapped with it, and it causes me to assign just vast quantities of people. That's my ask. I need some flexibility.
Can I give some historical on this? So about maybe 20 years ago, Commissioner Frierson probably remembers this. About 20, maybe 25 years ago, a group of officials came up with the idea that if an official is assigned to a championship fight, they should not be assigned to anything else, basically. And it was a way to keep things fair and to keep people from arguing within the commission and to keep them from basically fractioning within the commission. Things were pretty fractioned anyways, I think, within the officialdom hood, whatever. And to keep everyone getting paid and to keep, but what has ended up happening in the last few years as we've gotten more and more shows is Andy's hands are tied. So we've had to bring people in from other jurisdictions, which is fine, but when we have a show, like when we have 10 shows in a weekend, we run out of officials because you can only assign one to a championship fight. And then you have, 8, 10, 12 matches in one show. And then you have 10 other shows or 9 other shows, and you just run out of people. And so Andy and I spoke about the Tom Loeffler show, where I'm trying to move people around, and it just became impossible. So this gives him the ability to have people work more than one match. It just makes sense.
And to provide a little bit of historical background, I've included a chart that provides the title fights promoted and regulated in California from 1980 to the present day. As of right now, as we sit here today, we're in October 2nd. We are already at a record for number of title fights promoted in the state of California this year. And I can assure you that record's going to grow because I know the schedule between now and the rest of the year. So we're already at 58 titles this year, which is a record as far as the records go back.
So this is a request of our success, based on our success, the result of our success, your success, fighter success.
I mean, I need some flexibility because it takes literally years, if not decades, to develop the top officials, and we have the volume.
Right. Well, let's ask for a motion based on Mr. Foster's request, if we could. We can continue discussion. We have a motion to accept Mr. Foster's request.
Well, my discussion is whether there's a rule, because if there's some rule
There's
that
no
we have to
rule.
amend, there's
no
no rule or statute or anything.
It's just a policy.
Regarding
It's just a
payments?
policy.
Just policy.
Okay.
So moved.
We have Dr. Williams made a motion to approve the recommendation and request. We have a second. I think we had a couple of seconds there. Thank you, Commissioner Frierson. And now a chance for further discussion.
Are you
Commissioners?
sure you only want up to two undercards bouts and not 3? I mean, what if you have an event with like 15, or like 21? Remember that one with Bellator and Glory where you had like 21 bouts?
I think what I'd like to do is just what the motion was, is just to give me the discretion to assign as I see. And let me just preface this by saying, the commissioners, and I provide you, much to people's maybe their surprise, I provide you the assignments on a very regular basis, so the commissioners know what's happening in this commission. There's no doubt. If you want it, you have it. I mean, provide the oversight that you've always provided. If I get crazy with it, you can call me and say, listen, this is too many for this official. That's all I'm saying is I need some flexibility, and I appreciate your trust in giving that to me, because this is very needed.
Okay, but your recommendation is up to 2.
I think that's a good number. I mean, I could go with that, or I could just leave it. But up to 2 would I think that's a reasonable. But if you think more, let's just
Up to your discretion.
Okay,
Because
up
if
to
you
my
have
discretion.
one of those Glory plus Bellators, you're gonna need more than 2. I mean, that one had like 20-something bouts. That was crazy.
That's true.
I'm kind of against that because, we want. I woke up on the wrong side of the
contrarian.
bed, apparently.
Yeah.
Because, Andy's this great guy, but we need to make rules and policies for perhaps a less great executive officer. So
Well,
I
then-
would like to put, some limit. So I
Well, then-
propose 3.
Or 4. I mean, seriously, we had like 20-something bouts that day. It would be.
I don't understand why we just can't say to you, for the next 4 months or 5 months, you have discretion for not doing 2 here, 3 there, 5 somewhere else. And when we meet 5 or 6 months from now, we'll review what the impact of this is financially and how the referees feel about it. and let's move on.
Hang on, I have a motion and I'm listening to the commissioners. So we've now have alternative options to consider, but I do have a motion. So we have a motion to accept the recommendation of up to 2 undercard bouts at the discretion of the executive officer or his or her designee. So let's invite any comment on that motion. Dr. Moret. Anyone else that would like to?
Lou Moret, California referee. I don't know of any referee who wouldn't want to work every fight. So the number of fights is really not the issue. We love it, or we wouldn't be doing it. Secondly, it's really the discretion, and the executive officer has great abilities. I was here and I spoke not to this matter, but to the pay when you approved it. I wanted more money for us on the high end. But so we've always operated under this policy anyway. And to my knowledge, you've only implemented it once or twice.
Yeah, it's not.
I mean, it's abundance of caution more than anything. But the amount of work that we wanted, there's no referee that wouldn't say, give me all of them, okay? So this is really a no-brainer, and just give them the discretion at will.
Can I ask a question? Is there any concern that a referee might be overtaxed or tired for the title fight if they've done 3 or 4 undercard bouts?
Well, the real reason this was done years ago is we didn't get very many title fights. So if you could add on another referee, because the referee doing the title would only do that, that was a plus. Then we added on, after so many rounds, you add on more referees and judges. And so it was, how can we get more work? Mm-hmm. Yes, now I've worked, when referees in the past didn't show up, all 10 fights. You get tired, but also a lot of these fights, as we know, they're one-sided. The promoter wants his fighters to win, so they tend to be a lot of knockouts. So now you're talking about judgments of the referee, etc. But the fatigue is a minor factor. And again, it's a discretion. If there's 20 fights and he puts the championship fights in the first 7 or 8, you got a long time to rest. So that's really not an issue.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioners and Dr. Williams, if you would indulge me a second, perhaps we can get some consensus and maybe you'd be willing to amend your motion. So I heard a few things. First of all, your motion as asked by Andy, and then the discussion here about a limit on the number of bouts, and then Commissioner Souders thought of a time limit or a time frame where we give the discretion to the executive officer and then revisit the policy at a later date. Any consensus here, folks?
So to be clear, the motion as it stands says that an official could work a title and 2 undercards. So they're at 3 already, kind of total, right?
I'm just worried about I don't think Andy is gonna, leave the reservation tomorrow.
Microphone.
I don't think he's gonna go nuts tomorrow. Mary's worried about somebody other than Andy. So we can always, it's a policy, we can always change it later. I don't think he's going to leave the reservation tomorrow and just go nuts. But I am worried about, we do have some fights that have, the 20 bouts. And then you will have, he'll assign maybe like 10 officials, but those officials will have to work more than 3.
Are you okay with discretion for a time period?
Sure, absolutely.
And, I don't know if you are, I don't think you are, but Commissioner Souder obviously is. Any other commissioners? Dr. Williams, do you want to stick with your, because I'll call for a vote, or you want to?
I made a motion based on Andy's recommendation, and he said he thinks that that's sufficient, and I think that we could move the other way. We say, stick with this number, but say we can revisit it in 6 months or what have you. So I would amend the motion to say same number, up to 2 undercard bouts in addition to the title fight, but then we revisit the issue in 6 months. If he needs more discretion, then we can provide it at that time.
Does that work for you guys?
Yes, sir.
I second. I second.
Okay, so we have an amended motion and we have a second to add the 6 months review. Spencer, are we okay to then?
You are okay.
Okay, Mr. Foster, let's call the vote.
Commissioner and Dr. Williams,
Aye.
Commissioner Souter,
Aye.
Commissioner Senior Quidez,
Aye.
Commissioner Frierson, Vice Chair Lehman,
Aye.
Chairman Corvelli.
Aye. Thank
Motion
you.
passes 6-0, sir.
Okay, agenda item number 6, discussion and review of Association of Ringside Physicians Concussion Protocol and the California State Athletic Commission's minimum medical suspension requirements. Mr. Foster.
Mr. Chairman, how we got here, or how this got on the agenda was we all share articles, and you had found the article that Lance had written before I'd ever read it, and you sent it to me, sir, and I read it, and then you and I discussed it, and
Lance Pugmire,
Lance
of the LA
Pugmire
Times.
from the LA Times, and it's included in your packet, and I had been aware that this consensus statement had came out. I was aware of that. And so I thought it was very appropriate to have this, with your permission, you put this on the agenda. And I think that the commissioners should ask for the Medical Advisory Committee on Safety Standards to review this consensus statement, and then to provide a recommendation for the December meeting for possible adoption in the state of California. We do many of the things already that this consensus statement talks about, specifically the neurocognitive testing with the electronic. We do the C3 Logics test, and you'll hear in a minute we're almost up to 1,000 tests, okay, that we've uploaded. But one of the bigger changes, and our doctors often do it, but I do think that moving to a standard 60-day suspension for a knockout from a head blow, not from a body shot, but from a head blow. As somebody who's watched this a while, I feel like that's appropriate. I feel like the bigger piece of this puzzle is something I can work on, is we need to provide some education in a big way, and really this needs to be the focus, is we need to educate these trainers and these fighters that these suspensions also mean you should not be sparring during this time, because once they leave the venue, they go right back to the gym and start sparring. That's not helpful. I believe that that's not good for their brain, and this is talked about in this consensus statement, how we don't have control over that, and I think this commission could do a good job on educating this. But my recommendation is we turn the consensus statement over to the MAC with a time frame to have the MAC return it to the commission at the December meeting. This is incredibly important. It's contemporary, and I appreciate the chairman sending me the article.
Commissioners, I hope you had a chance to look at this article. I thought it was kind of remarkable in not a great way. I thought it was good that it appeared to discuss the issue. I was disappointed in some of the comments made and somewhat self-serving, and not by by Lance Pugmire, but by the folks that he was quoting, and just outright wrong. But so I did call Andy and ask him to look at it, and did ask that we bring it up here for discussion. We are specifically mentioned, as you can see in the article, and so it's not a big ask to ask the MAC to review and come back to us. And so I thought it would be good to make sure you guys were aware of this and that we can take it to the next discussion level. I don't think that we're getting enough credit for the work that is being done by Andy and the MAC and the staff and this commission. So, not that we're doing this work for credit, but we want that awareness out there, the work that we're doing. Right, Dr. Williams?
I agree 100%. And I was aware of this publication, but thanks for sending it out. I think it's important for all of us to be aware of. I think there are aspects and components to this that make sense. There are other aspects and components to it that I think might be problematic. I would remind everybody that this is a consensus opinion. It's not based on evidence or evidence-based review or guideline or what have you. So, this is, should be taken in that light. But I think it is something that the MAC should discuss and perhaps make some recommendation for the commission. And it may not be adopt the entire document, but parts of that document we do want to adopt. Yes, sir.
Can I ask a question? Have other commissions taken steps in adopting some or part of this consensus statement? I see it's been out for about a year.
Well, this new iteration, okay, the first one came out, but it was accepted on the 4th of July of 2018, okay? It hit the press about that time. Do you see that on the first page?
Receive, revise, accepted. Okay.
And I learned about it around that time. So to answer your question, not to my knowledge. I've heard a few iterations. I know that Mike Mazzulli has looked at it. I know that I believe Kim Sumbler in New York has looked at it. But to my knowledge, I don't talk to them every day, but I've not heard of an adoption.
And Vice Chair, President Mike Mazzulli of ABC and Lydia Robertson, they're here, and I'm going to ask them to come up and comment on this, but I need a motion so we can continue the discussion. Do we have a motion to accept Executive Officer's recommendation to send this consensus statement to our MAC? May I have a motion for that, please?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is it okay to invite public comment now? You want to come on up and put you on the spot? Come on. Lydia, if you want to join in. All the way from Connecticut.
Well, first, I want to thank you for having me.
Please introduce yourself, sir.
Actually, it's Michael Mazzulli. I'm the executive director of the Mohegan Tribe Athletic Department, and I'm also the president of the Association of Boxing Commissioners.
Welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate the invite. With that said, we work extremely close as the director of the athletic department for the Mohegan Tribe. We work extremely close with Andy and yourselves as a commissioner of California. You guys have led the way in safety, and we all know that. And this is just another avenue, another process to make it safer for the fighters when it comes to the suspension aspect of it. So I concur with Andy. It's something that needs to be done. It's something that needs to be done throughout the country. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make it unified. I have looked at it. I've spoken to Andy quite a bit on it. And at some point, it's going to be passed. I have to admit, in a nice way, nothing against you commissioners, but at Mohegan, I pull my pen out and I make a decision. And I give it to my attorney, and we say, let's do it. And that's the end of it, which is great. But with that said, you guys
lumped all of us commissioners nationally together. That's just not cool.
But with that said, I mean, the ABC wants to go to unified medical requirements and everything, and we're discussing that as well, where we'd have unified minimum medical requirements throughout the state, throughout the country. So, like I said, I appreciate it, and it's going to happen at Mohegan most definitely. So, and my assumption it's going to happen in New York with Kim Sumpler. That's she's on the same page with us. We have a lot of conference calls together, the three of us. So, again, thanks for having
Before
me.
you disappear, commissioners, any questions for President Mazzulli?
Just quick question is: are there any aspects of the document that you find potentially problematic, or do you accept the entire document as it is and say, this makes sense?
Doc, as you know, the Ringside Physicians. I don't know if you even realize this, that the Association of Boxing Commission, the medical aspect of it was actually that commission that association was formed by Dr. Michael Schwartz, which is my chief ringside physician, the AARP, which is the Association of Ringside Physicians. Dr. Schwartz founded that back in, oh geez, I've been in the business for 20 years. And he's no longer affiliated with it. He's still a member, but he's not the president. So no, they're the experts. You know, they know their stuff. You know, Dr. Cantu from Boston. You know, I respect them 100%, and I don't have a problem with the document at all. I think it's needed. Do you? I mean, is there something that you feel there's? I'm curious, as a doctor. Maybe I'm overlooking something that I'm not.
I think that one of the things that I think we should talk about within the MAC, and I think is important to discuss, is that part of what was done here was taking the example and models of guidelines and consistent statements that were made in other sports and saying, how can we apply that to combat sports, which I get in principle, with the exception of one thing, and that is combat sports are very different than non-combat sports, particularly when it comes to the issue of the brain and head injury and what have you. So as an example, if we followed the letter of the law in this document, anytime somebody was dazed, we'd stop the fight. Right. That changes combat sports essentially and dramatically. So to say if one suspects a concussive injury has occurred, the fight should be stopped automatically and that fighter removed. I get that in football. I don't get that in combat sports, because part of the sport is, can the guy pull himself back together? Can he pull it back together and win the fight even? Or he's got a 1 minute rest within the next 3 minutes. I mean, there's other things that make combat sports unique. And so I think in some ways it's difficult to adopt across the board the same kinds of principles that you adopt in non-combat sports.
I would have to agree with you, but I would also have to say, like Dr. Alessi, my neurologist on staff, if he
Tony
thinks
and I are good friends.
Yeah, you know, okay, Tony and I, listen, I talked to Tony 2 days ago. We talk every day. With that said, that's where I rely on Tony saying, hey, Doc, in between rounds, if you think you need to get up there and check and see if he's excessively concussed, that's your job.
This document doesn't say that.
Yeah, right.
This says if you suspect a concussion, the fight stops.
And that's where the doctors come in, I think, saying if he feels there's a concussive, and I don't know the levels of the concussion protocol. That's something I rely on my doctors, like my guest Andy does here as well. It's all depending on what the doctors say. So that's where, and I know Kim right now in New York requires doctors to go up between each round to look at the fighters. It doesn't matter if it's MMA or boxing. In boxing they have to be up on the apron watching.
So in most of the other sports right now, the kind of the uniform approach is really a go no go decision. Like if it's a possible, probable, or definite concussion, they're all treated the same. Mm-hmm. Athlete is pulled and removed. I think that it would be difficult to do in combat sports.
I have to agree with you that. I do have to agree with you on that. I concur completely with you. And that's where like I said, I rely on Dr. Alessi and Dr. Schwartz and Dr. Raj Kumar and all my physicians to determine that within that 1 minute, which is extremely difficult as well, correct? I mean, that 1 minute rest period is extremely difficult to come up with a decision and a conclusion on somebody's safety.
Exactly.
And at the end of the day, they're punching each other in the head.
You might have to do away with like ground and pound, and you know that changes MMA entirely, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's
because
something.
Some of these guys get pounded ground and pounded back into, they're out and they come back.
Up, yeah.
I mean, that's.
That's another reason why the adoption hasn't been done immediately. I think there should be some more conversation and discussion. And with Andy, I do that, and with Kim, we do that, and down in Texas as well with Big Greg Alvarez, not Big Greg, but Greg Alvarez. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was a great discussion. And before we vote, we did something I thought was kind of groundbreaking this year when we invited all the sanctioning bodies to come together in that summit, if you will. We were discussing, weight cutting and dangerous weight cutting and dehydration and rehydration, and the way that kind of the approach that the commission took was a slow, methodical analysis, find areas that everyone can agree that need to be addressed, proceed there, and then go from there. And I think, Dr. Williams, that's what you're saying. We need to methodically have you all, the physicians, in our constituted committee, slowly go through this and look at this, think about the impacts, and then come back and
Right.
and make some recommendations. I think that'd be great, and it'll help not just our commission, but I'm sure the ABC. Right, great. Okay, commissioners, anybody else? Anybody from the public like to comment on this motion? We did the motion, didn't we? Yes.
Yes.
I don't see anyone else standing up, so let's have a vote.
Commissioner and Dr. Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Souter.
Aye.
Commissioner Senior Quidez.
Aye.
Commissioner Frierson. Vice Chair Lehman.
Aye.
Chairman Carvelli.
Aye.
6-0, sir.
Thank you. Item number 7, subcommittee updates. We have a pension fund subcommittee, as we always do, and we have Vice Chair Lehman here to, if she wouldn't mind, give us a quick update, or as long as you like, update on pension funds. Or, Andy, up to you guys, how you want to do this.
Do we have the picture
The picture.
about the check?
Oh, we don't, man. Yeah, we don't.
Yes. Okay.
They,
So
they weren't good.
it's okay.
They weren't good,
Okay.
apparently.
Well, I guess as far as the report, one thing that we've been trying to do is have like a public presentation of payouts, to get on TV. It's like, hey, you too can get a check. Contact us. And we were, there's problems about people being able to come to a fight and scheduling fights and who's going to give it out. But we had an opportunity that went over well, and Commissioner Martha was able to do it. So I'll turn the mic over to her, and she'll describe. We also had a picture we tried to bring, but it didn't work.
I went to a fight. I gave a check.
Oh, come on.
Tell us about it. It's good.
It was at the Avalon, and it was a 360 Promotions. It was Tom Loeffler, and this guy was so excited. He was so excited. He got a lot of money. He got a lot of money.
How much was it?
I don't think we should want to say that.
Oh, okay, all right. Sorry.
It was a big check. And I think he was just about retired or retiring. And anyways, in his normal job, oh my gosh, he was so excited. He brought his wife, and he was so excited. And he just was so grateful, and he was so happy. And he was just about to retire in like 5 months or something like that. And so he spent a lifetime in boxing and in various parts of boxing, and he really wants to come back and give back. So he would like to be an inspector or something like that, but he was just so grateful. It was really a lot of fun. It was really a lot of fun.
And this took place in the ring?
In the ring. Tom, yes, Tom was really accommodating. He had us come in, and the TVs and the cameras, and it was during the promotion for the Superflies, right before the Superflies, that was to take place at the Forum. So there was a lot of media there. Yeah, it was very, very cool.
He also, to add, and because one thing I thought was important to note is these people are professional boxers here in California, and he signed up as a volunteer inspector with us, so he's on track. As he volunteers, he's interested in eventually, when the exam opens, getting enough volunteer spots to position him high on the rankings. You can't be guaranteed a spot, but it's an exam, but he'll be well positioned in the exam. So he did sign up. So I think it's a good outcome. Then also, Commissioner Lehman, as you recall, we were going to have the WBC here to thank them, but they asked, because they're in Kiev right now and for their annual convention, so perhaps in December, with the chair's permission, we'll recognize
As
them
our
for
Sacramento
helping.
meeting?
Yes, yes,
Maybe wherever we can, so it'd be convenient for that, get a lot of them to show up.
Yes,
Just
sir.
keep that in mind.
Okay, yes,
In
sir.
case Sacramento becomes a barrier, we don't want to
Sure, yes, sir.
do that, because we can always do that.
Maybe
Always
Los
celebrate,
Angeles.
right.
Yes, sir.
So, but I would like to thank you, Andy, and all the staff, for, I know there's a lot of personal one-on-one work to get these checks and, communicate with people. So thank you. And if we can, maybe do something like this again to, I know it's a lot of work and scheduling to give out checks at a fight. I think that's helpful, because again, our big concern is finding
boxers whose pension has vested. And thank you for the chart that you've done, Andy. And we're closing that gap slowly but surely between who's vested and who have not claimed. So, thank you.
Yeah, and you have, if you notice on the chart, it's a great point, the number of recipients is stable. It may seem like we're giving less, but not necessarily, right? Because the percentage of people out of the body of eligibles is good. It's not great, but it's not bad.
Yeah.
Commissioners, any questions about pension fund? I'm sure we can address it again during the executive officer report if we wish. Thank you, Commissioner Martha, Commissioner Mary. Thank you all. If anyone from the public would like to comment about or have any questions about our, comments on our subcommittee for pension fund, now's the time to, seeing no one, we will move on to agenda item number 8, our executive officer's report. Mr. Foster, where will you begin?
I'll begin on the budget update, sir.
Okay. Yay. Fiscal.
Yeah.
Fiscal. Go see Cal.
I've included the letter from Janice Shintaku. At some point, I'd like to be able to stop blaming Fiscal for our lack of reports, but I'm not there yet. So we're not going to be able to close out fiscal year 17-18 until March of 2019. What I can tell you is the commission set a revenue record as far as the DCA records go back for revenue, so I'm pleased about that. I know where our deposits are at revenue-wise for this year. We're at about 530 right now, not counting this past weekend, which will greatly increase because of the 10 events that we just did. But as far as the budget update is concerned, I have revenue numbers, but I don't have any accurate expense reports for this commission at this time. Don't know when I'll have them.
You have no reason to believe that we have any issues that are concerned, do you?
I do not, sir. The report on the pending and proposed regulations, examination of Boxrec applicants.
Yes, the rulemaking package was released by our budget office yesterday, and it is now on our Deputy Director of Legal Affairs' desk for review and approval.
Yay.
So it's my understanding once that's done, and once the director of
Mary, that was the initial review.
Okay.
No, final, yeah. It's state service.
Pre-review, review,
That's
post-review, post-mortem review.
And Spencer, I don't want to tell the commissioners wrong, so please correct me, but it's my understanding of this new process is, as the commissioners are aware, this process has taken a long time to get to where we're at. It started moving again very recently, and we, once it's approved, at this point, then it will be submitted to OAL, Office of Administrative Law, and the clock will start at that point. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So, at least in this process, the benefit of this process is the clock's not, the clock is not running, the OAL clock. So, once it gets to OAL, it should be quick. I mean, most likely. I mean, it should be.
Hopefully. It can take up to a year, but yeah, they have to review it within 30 days. So.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So, I have a basic understanding of most things now with this after 5 years. You know, I have basic understanding of pro rata, basic understanding of things. I have no understanding of how this goes at all.
Well, they keep changing it too.
Is that what it is? Like a moving target? I have no understanding of how this process goes. It's like this black hole of how this. Is there some way that we can maybe get an explanation at some point of where this stuff goes? Because it's part of our sunset review. I mean, we are really criticized for not doing this, and
A couple of things. I'll provide to all the commissioners a flow chart of how this thing works, but that's really not going to be the best explanation for you. I think what would be the best explanation, and Commissioner Martha, you might be interested in this, maybe Commissioner Lehman, any commissioner, I could probably talk to the director and see next time they offer the regulation class, because I go to it every time. I'm the constant member there at that class. I think it might be interesting for you to sit through this thing and listen to it. You know, luckily Sophia knows how to do the regulations.
is it accurate? Like, do you actually learn
What's
how
happened
it,
is
or is it gibberish?
the only change in the process is because OEL takes about it's a year that this package is active, and what was happening is because of the lengthy review by the department, they were running out of time. It's okay. They were running out of time, so they now have the department review first, so that we don't run out of time with OEL on getting it approved.
But isn't that the problem, of course, is that they know there's no time, there's no clock running, so it stagnates in the department?
It sounds like they're just
Sorry.
What do you know about that question there?
So that means that if we go to this class,
That's a good question.
and the class isn't really telling us what's happening because
It
they're
just
just
tells
changing
you.
the process because they're running out of time. So really what I would like to learn is the real process and then all the different permutations of the process when they're running out of time.
There's various offices within the department that it needs to go through. The executive office, the legal department, reg, as well as budget.
Who gets to decide the different permutations when they're running out of time?
Well, we don't run out of time now, that's the thing, because
Yeah,
the new
we don't.
process.
Right. With
Yeah.
the new process, well, they have given us some time frames as to how long they would take, and that's in the training manual. You know, how long legal would have it, and how, you know,
Are they
in a
sticking
perfect
to
world,
the
how long budget office would have it.
perfect world? Are they sticking to that?
With this package, I don't think so.
This package has really got a lot of movement in the last month, though. It's been
Yes.
moving through it's really picked
And
up.
it did have a huge fiscal impact, so, you know, the budget office had a lot of questions and needed clarification.
That's not really an answer, is it?
Okay.
Okay, never mind. We'll talk about it.
Okay, on the delegated entities updates, for your knowledge, Mr. Chairman, as you know, Mike McAtee requested to be out today. He has scheduling issues, and then John Frank is sick. He has the flu. He's told me. JT Steele from Camo is here.
Good afternoon, Chairman Carvelli, Commissioners. Pleasure to see you here at the historic Biltmore Hotel. Very nice venue. You know, these last couple months have gone by really quick since the last time that we saw you in San Diego. We've had some of our busiest months that we've really had in years. October being our busiest month that we've had in a very long time. So we've been very busy. Our head has been down and we've been focused on what we're doing.
Is that mic on?
Yeah, it's on.
Okay.
I'm just kind of, my voice is a little on the outs. I provided you some updated statistics for injuries and bout results, which I thought were kind of interesting. We've just had such a busy 2 months since we last met, but our fights have been incredibly safe. The percentage of knockouts and technical knockouts, it's not sure if it's an anomaly or not, but they're extremely low. So we've not only we experienced a high volume of events, but they've been great events as well. Very, very safe. We are continuing to explore our drug testing. I don't want to announce anything yet, but we do have some interest from some private parties who are interested in helping us with our drug testing program, which should be very, very exciting. That hopefully by next commission meeting we might have some things to announce that should be very pleasing to the commission. So that's been kind of one of our regulations. Although I didn't put it in the packet, we have discussed and we're moving forward with an online training for our inspectors, which should be fantastic. We've had, due to some very unfortunate health situations with family members of those who were involved in doing that program, it's just, I was hoping to have something more substantive for you by this meeting, but it's just been delayed for unfortunate circumstances. But it is still moving forward. But based on those packets, if there's anything that I can answer for you, please let me know.
Looks good. Commissioners? Thank you. J.T. Steele.
There will be a large event on the horizon here in California that will have camo on the undercard. So I think it would be and there should probably be several
We'll
state.
announce it. Announce the event. The details.
I don't know if it's I'm at the liberty to do so yet, but you'll know about
So you're
it.
just teasing us? Okay.
It's a little bit of a teaser, but point being, there should be several state title fights on the undercard of a very large event, and it would be a great opportunity for you to see some of the up-and-coming amateur talent, and we look forward to sharing that stage.
I'm asking you then to contact Andy and have him email us with the details when they're available.
I will do that.
Okay.
Sound good?
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Steve Fossum's not here today, and it's my understanding he planned to be here, so I don't understand exactly. We worked together this past weekend, so I don't know.
Maybe he's lost in the hotel.
Maybe, yeah. His report is included in the packet.
We have the 3 reports. Maybe if the commissioners have any questions about the reports, you could ask those now.
I'd like to speak. I went to a IKF event in San Diego a month ago, and it was great. I mean, I thought it was super entertaining. The fights were good. It seemed everything was, ran well, and inspectors, and it was fluid, and it was like standing room only. It was at the 4 Point Sheraton, which I think, Kama, you guys use, which I hope to come to your fights in San Diego. I saw my calendar now. So I wanted to, give props to IKF. That was one of my first events that I'd been to, and yeah.
Great. We worked closely with the IKF this past weekend. As Sean Wells is back there, we had the 9 events scheduled, and we finally was able to get a ringside physician to agree at the week of the fight. So we were able to do the 10th event. But it was with the IKF's help that we had to, so we had to work closely. But Sean had his hands full that weekend, as we all did.
Any other questions about the delegated entities? Commissioners?
Okay, well, I'll make a comment on the USA Boxing. If I can find it. I was impressed, speaking as a member of our gender equity task force, USA's Boxing's efforts to promote women in both as fighters and officials and also coaches. And I note that the money that they offered to go to the national training camp for women was higher than the men's, and so they're putting their money where their mouth is, and I appreciate that.
Good. Excellent. Sounds like we have some
They're
good...
not here, so now I say nice things
Yeah.
when they're here.
We'll remind him next meeting. Yeah. You're on item D, Andy?
Yes, sir. C3 Logics program. as of the time I wrote this, it was 891 tests. We're not to 1,000 yet, but we're close.
You're going to make your 1,000 by year end, right?
The goal is, sir, 1,200 by year
1,200,
end,
okay.
and we're on target. Thanks largely to the Inspector Corps that has just been, we've really been working hard on this project. And the idea is when Dr. Williams and the MAC meets the next times, we're going to have some substantial amount of information where we can move to basically what I would like to call maybe a phase 2 of this program. We've been collecting these baselines for the longest time. Now in phase 2, with the doctor's direction, of course, but somewhere in an iteration of using this information to assist the doctors in making return to competition decisions and these type of things. But that's for the doctors, but we haven't been doing this for nothing, and we have a large testing pool, and with 1,200 professional athletes, give or take a few hundred either direction in any given year, for us to have tested or baseline tested the majority of our licensing population by year end, I think sets us up for a good be able to use that information moving forward. I'm certain.
Work that through the MAC, the next steps.
Absolutely, sir.
So the MAC will come back out with some recommendations. We can incorporate that into our strategic plan then for sunset review.
Yes, sir.
We're preparing for.
Yes, sir.
I agree, and I think we talked about the document earlier, recommendations on return to combat and so on and so forth. But one of the important points I think of that document was that there's really, I mentioned the fact that it was a consensus statement, not evidence-based, but one of the things that they described in the early paragraphs of the document is that there's not a lot of published evidence out there. And so I think the fact that we're collecting this information will put us in a great position to start publishing some of our findings, increasing the fund of knowledge across the country, and obviously using that information locally. So that's going to be very helpful.
That would be great. Yeah. Really good. We're going to publish. Love it.
Sir, number E, I have a small presentation for the commissioners if you'd like to turn to the PowerPoint page. Give you a little background on this. President Mazzulli of the ABC appointed me as I chair 2 committees in the ABC, the medical committee and the boxing registry committee. The boxing registry is mentioned in federal law. And
excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Is this presentation going to be how long? And it can be as long as it needs to be.
8 minutes, 6 minutes.
It is almost noon. Commissioner Frierson asked me when we were taking a break a while ago.
Let's take a break.
So if the commissioners are okay, we could break for a lunch break and then come back. Is that okay? Okay. Any issues there, gentlemen?
Chairman, you had said earlier that the reservations were for 12:30.
We can move. We move them up.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
Thank you for that point of clarification. Thank you for paying attention. Okay. How long do we need? 30, 40 minutes, we'll call it?
45 at least.
Well, then it'll be an hour. So let's call it 40 minutes. We'll be back. Thank you.
40 minutes? You get 40.
I don't know.
Heather, if we can get the Boxrec presentation. Okay, I'm going to hurry. I'm hurrying. I'm hurrying. Yeah.
You ready to go?
So, sir, this is just an abbreviated version of the Boxrec presentation as the record keeper. the United States represented 14% of the world's boxing last year, from June 17 to June 2018. So I think it's an important to remember that 86% of the world's boxing happens outside of the United States. Okay. 86%.
Who's number 2? Or number 1?
I don't have that, sir. I don't know. I know that the country of Japan has a lot of boxing, and I know that the UK has a lot of boxing. Yes, it's all professional. Anyway, the purpose of this kind of the presentation was to show the kind of the hardest working officials, because I'd never had pulled this stat, didn't have any reason to. But of the 30 spots that are from judges and referees, California has 16 of the 30 spots for the most used officials in the Association of Boxing Commissions, which is North America. Okay. In fact, Fernando Villarreal, I don't know if
Here he is.
Fernando's here.
Fernando, come on up.
He won an award for the most used judge in the ABC, and to see his award right there.
Hardest working judge. Okay, very good.
Yeah. It's from
Well employed.
Boxrec, and it says Fernando Villarreal, hardest working judge. That's pretty cool.
Indeed.
Do you feel like the hardest working judge?
I do.
A lot of travel?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a chance to go to Mexico, not this year, but I've been to Mexico a couple times. I went to Texas this year to do a world title fight, but it's mainly here in California. So I've been blessed that Mark and Andy have the confidence in me to do these fights. And
What percentage of your assignments are in California?
most of them.
More than 90%?
Yes, absolutely.
Very cool.
Yeah, congratulations. Very good.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Just to give you kind of a rundown, I thought I'd be quick with this. Fernando Villarreal was number 1 with 187 bouts in this period of time. Number 2 was 104. So that tells you the difference between 1 and 2. Number 3 was Pat Russell. Number 4 was Steve Weisfeld, who will be teaching or training later today. Number 5, but only 1 down from number, tied for number 3, was Carla Cais. Max DeLuca was number 7. Rudy Barragon was number 9. Eddie Hernandez Sr. was number 10. Christy Rosario 11. Zach Young 12. Danny Sandoval 14. Then on the referee side, Gary Rosado, I believe he's a New York official. He was number 1. Jack Reese was number 2. He's a California at 56. And then tied for 3rd was Jerry Cantu and Raul Case Jr. Then Rudy Barragon, I believe, was number 9 on this side as well. Wayne Hedgepath, number 11. Thomas Taylor, number 14. Eddie Hernandez, number 15. California is well represented on the hardest working officials page. And sir, with the PowerPoint not working, there's no really reason for me to continue.
You want to add it to the next meeting agenda?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's just do that, so you can take more time.
Yes, sir.
Not a problem.
I've already covered the budget update, the upcoming event schedule. I just want to point out 3 events.
Our support fund's at $2 million? Is that what you're saying, almost?
The revenue to the support fund was almost $2 million in fiscal year 17-18. Yes,
And
sir.
our reserve fund balance?
Without fiscal work, it's about between $1 million and 1.1. So it's somewhere in there.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you. Event schedule?
event schedule. Like I mentioned earlier in the day, we're on track to set a record for title fights in California this year. I would point out, and it's not been publicly released yet, but I'd just like for your calendars to reflect November the 9th at the Forum. That might be something that the commissioners are interested in. Then the things that are publicly released, we have Chuck Liddell fighting Tito Ortiz, the 26th. That's at the Forum.
Where's the 9th?
The 9th's at the Forum also, sir.
And when's the next one?
Then the November 26th.
Is that Bellator?
No, sir, that's Golden Boys MMA promotion. That's with Chuck with Tito. And then on December 1st, we have the World Heavyweight Championship, WBC World Heavyweight title coming to California. Deontay Wilder from Alabama fighting Tyson Fury from the UK. Then quickly on the staffing update, like I said, you and I, sir, informed the commissioners we've been working to bring the Chief Athletic Inspector position back. I spoke with Karen Nelson from Chris Castillo's office in the department, and she's helping me set up a meeting with budgets, with legal, with Spencer, and with human resources, so we can work this out, so that we can get this badly needed position back to the commission. On top of that, on the staffing update, I've also posted.
Can I add something to that? So I want to thank Chris and the DCA team, Director Graffilo, the folks from the agency, and those departments for joining us in these meetings to be able to ask questions, let's get them information, and help them work these issues through the process. So we want to thank those folks. Thanks, Chris. Thank everyone for their assistance with this. And get us that position that we really need.
And then also, I've posted, and I'll be conducting interviews on October 25th for a Associate Government Program Analyst position. We have some good candidates that have applied. And once I get that, we'll be not just fully staffed, but we'll be fully staffed with some excess into the DCA blanket that's been approved. And then I can assure you that I'm going to be running a BCP, a budget change proposal, sooner rather than later. And we may talk to the legislature about that in sunset. That's up to the commissioners. But, you know, we had a record year 2 years ago, and we had a dip, and now we're at another record year this year, this fiscal year 17-18, and we have a good schedule for this year. So things are looking good for the commission, but we're busy. We just run 10 events, which is a record as far back as the DCA records go on our events this past weekend. With that said, sir, that concludes my report.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Randy on his report? Members of the public, do you have any questions or actually comments on that agenda item number 8, Executive Officer Report? Seeing none, we'll go to agenda item number 9, Business and Professions Code, Section 18640.5, requires the Commission to invite stakeholder testimony at Commission meetings in order to identify actions that may lead to greater opportunities for licensees to participate in major professional boxing contests. Here's an opportunity, as we will do in every meeting, to invite anyone that might have some information for us or ideas for us that we can hear about to enhance what we're doing. Okay, seeing no one take that opportunity right now, we can always do it next meeting. Agenda item number 10, public comments on items not on the agenda. Here's a chance for the public to stand up and talk about an issue that is important to them, and if you're welcome to do so at this time. Yes, sir. No. Okay. Okay.
Were we
yes, sir.
Were we going to discuss HBO leaving boxing?
You can. Why don't you just announce it if you would?
Yeah, HBO has decided to leave boxing after 45 years.
Let's put 45 years.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, sir, please, I'm sorry.
What's the financial implication of that for us, if not for boxing as a national sport? And what's the cultural impact, if any?
I think it's rather significant. What I have saw in the office is a transition HBO has sort of, in the last few years, they've been kind of downsizing on their boxing, and it's been kind of going kind of down. And Showtime and Fox have kind of been on the upswing. And I've been noticing it's sort of like they've transitioned over to Showtime. Showtime has just announced a record schedule for boxing for the next calendar year, and so did Fox. And so I think what you're seeing is you're just seeing a natural change in the programming across the models. Streaming's in with the big thing, the DAZN. We just did one up in
That's DAZN.
DAZN. And this the streaming model is a real thing. Matchroom has got licensed. So I think we're watching right before, we're in present time, we're watching transitions happening in this industry.
And HBO will be neutral. The HBO income will be replaced by increased activity at the two networks and streaming.
I think not only replaced, but replaced and more to it. Yes, sir. But your point's absolutely a good one. I've been running the numbers, all of these things, and I'll keep you posted because your concerns were my concerns as well.
Thank you.
We're going to miss Jim Lampley on Fight Game, and if you didn't see it, we sent the link around, and I think it's posted up on our social media and website, where he took the time to mention Andy Foster and the commission and work we're doing with Dr. Williams with weight cutting and dehydration. So that was something really good, I thought. So yeah, he'll miss that part. Maybe he'll land somewhere else and keep the conversation alive. Okay, agenda item number 11 is the next meeting scheduled. I don't think we need to, we can, if you want to, let's just contact the office. Okay. Sir?
Closed session shouldn't take very long at all.
Okay, so, folks, you have to leave. Commissioners only, and Andy and Spencer, and keep close because this won't take long. It's not an action item. It's an advise and consent.
Staff consent.
Whatever that means.
Yep.